The islands of Britain include Ireland. They are described or referred to in biblical prophecies. They are referred to in biblical prophecies. Quite often we find expressions such as the Isles of the Sea or the Isles of the West. In Hebrew, the word for Western Sea are interchangeable. The word Yam says the Isles shall wait for his law. Isaiah 42:4. Also says Isaiah 51. Mine arms shall judge the people, my nation, the isles shall wait upon me. Isaiah 69, it says, the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first to bring your sons from afar. Ships of Tarshish meaning ships from the Atlantic Ocean area. And that indicates the British Isles. Also says that it also refers to Ephraim, that is, as it also refers to Ephraim as the firstborn of the Almighty. In connection with the Isles, it says in Jeremiah 31:9-10, I'm a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord, O you nations, declared in the Isles afar off. He that scattered Israel will gather him and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. Too, we find the Isles referred to in the prophecy of Balaam, referring to the Israelites in the end times. Remember, there were 12 tribes of Israel, 12 tribes of Israel, and these 12 tribes divided into two sections: Judah and in the south, Judah and Benjamin, and the most of Levi in the south, in the kingdom of Judah, and the 10 tribes of Israel in the north. And they are separated into two separate kingdoms. The northern kingdom was taken away by the Assyrians and exiled. But from its places of exile, they moved to the west. They moved to the west of Europe. They moved to the British Isles, including Ireland, and they are known. And it is described as saying, according to Josephus, who paraphrased it, Josephus in the Antiquities of the Jews, Josephus in Book 4, he paraphrased part of the prophecy as saying, the multitude of your posterity shall also live. The great portion of your people shall live in the islands, as on the continent, and that number be more in number than other stars of heaven. The multitudes of your prophecy shall live as well in the islands as on the continents, and number more than the stars of heaven. Talmud Sanhedrin 94 refers to the 10 tribes being exiled and still being physically in existence. Where were they exiled to? Mansruta said to Africa. Rabbi Hanina said to the mountains of Slug, of snow. Mountains of Slug, meaning the mountains of snow, understood to mean the Caucasus, and then Caucasus means in the mountains of snow. For a while, the Boston tribes were in that area. After that, they moved north, and then moved to the west, and with Anglo-Saxons and related peoples and Scandinavians, they emerged in Europe. Whereas Africa can refer to different places, different areas have this name. It can refer to Africa, it can refer to Europe. Well, other regions, the Maharal of Prague. Maharal of Prague was a great rabbi. Incidentally, he was in contact with Queen Elizabeth I of England through her astronomy and her scientific advisor and religious counselor, John Dee, who went to visit her, went to visit the Maharal. The Maharal of Prague emphasized that the Talmud saying that lost in tribes were in Africa. He says it does not mean the usual places associated with that name, but another area altogether. We find in Francis Wilford in the 1788, based on basically Greek sources, and also Hindu literature and Arabic and Persian sources, the name Africa in the sources of these later Greek sources was extended to the western parts of Europe, all along the shores of the Atlantic. And the Britain was known as the abode of the gods, or Suraleam, and applied to them to the westernmost part of Europe, or the British Isles. Suraleim may be a form of the term Israel. We find Israelites in the West. Find the West, and Rashi also refers to the lost tribes being in Salafat, meaning France, according to Abarbanel and the 1400s, to both Britain and France. And according to Maimonides, to the ends of the far north. And these are more or less the same regions, the same directions, and that is where the lost tribes were to be. So amongst other areas, the lost tribes were to be found in Ireland. The Irish mythology speaks of waves of invaders from different areas. The earliest were known as Fomorians, and another group was known as the Tuatha De Danann, or descendants of the god or goddess Dana, named after Dana. Dana is another way of pronouncing in ancient Hebrew the term Dan, Dana. After Dana, the tribe of Dana, came the Milesians, also known as Gael and as Iberi. An ancestor of the Gael was known as Don. His name Don is also a form of the name Dan. Don was an ancestor of the Gaels. He is believed to have been a god of the dead, that is possibly the prime god. And this name Don is also given to different fortresses and settlements. And Bert Otton suggested that these fortresses were known or referred to as Don or Don after Dan. The tribe of Dan in the Hebrew, in the Bible, had the practice of naming places after their forefather Dan. Find in Judges 18 says, and they called the name of the city Dan after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel. Again in Joshua 19, the border of the children of Israel went beyond the east, because the children of Dan went up to fight against Leshem and took it, and they struck it with the edge of the sword, took possession of it, and dwelt in it, and they called Leshem Dan after the name of Dan their father. Also Judges 18, they went out and camped in Kiryat Yarim in Judah. Therefore they call that place Mahane Dan, the camp of Dan, to this day. It is west of Kiryat Yarim. Again in Judges 18, they call the name of the city Dan after the name of Dan their father, was born to Israel, but actually Raish is the name of the city at first. It says in Genesis 49:17 that Dan shall be a serpent by the way, that is a snake by the way. And you see a snake which crosses over a dirty road, a dirty pathway. You can see the sign of his twisting belly in the dust. It leaves a trail behind it. So do the tribe of Dan. Wherever they went, they named places after them, or after their forefather Dan. The Danim, or the Danites of Denmark, are also named after Dan, according to their own traditions. And they too were to be found in Ireland. The Vikings conquered portions of Ireland, most of the cities, many early towns of Ireland. All of the early townships of England were founded by the Vikings. Vikings in Ireland came from both Norway and Denmark, but Denmark was the most important, so the Danes, named after Dan, contributed a lot to Ireland. After the Tuatha De Danann conquered Ireland, as we said, came the Milesians, also known as Iberi and as Gaeli, and this term Iberi means Hebrew. That is what it means. We have proven it in another lecture. It's the same meaning as Hebrew, Iberi or Iberi. And That means Hebrew, and that was what they were called, or what they called themselves, and the numerous place names connected with them have this root. The ancestor, one of the major ancestors of the Iberi, of the Galilee, was Don, named Don. And this name too is another form of the name Dan. The tribe of Dan in the Bible is known for its superhero, Samson, the strong man Samson. Good author who's written on this, he compares Samson to the Irish. Samson had a sense of humor, he played practical jokes, he used riddles, he had a partisan type of one-man fighting style. Samson was very brave, he was a great warrior, very strong, and many Irish are like that. Irish soldiers helped build the British Empire. The Victoria Cross is the highest medal for bravery in the British Army, and very many Irishmen received them. Possibly the highest proportional, possibly proportionally the highest number of awards of this medal went to the Irish, went to Irish soldiers. Originally Ullada, that is Ulster, Northern Ireland, was ruled by the Catholic O'Neills and O'Donnells. The name O'Donnell also possibly derives from Dan. So we have the province of Donegal in the northwest portion of Ireland, also named after Dan. In Irish mythology, we have the hero Cuchulainn, whose name linguistically may represent Exile of Judah, a figure recorded in the Bible. In Irish tradition, you got Geoffrey Keating in the 1600s, using ancient sources. He relates that Niall was an ancestral figure of Irish royalty. Most Irish kings, ancient Irish kings, descended from Niall. And according to these traditions, he had been an associate, according to these traditions, he had been associated with Yair the Eloquent from Judah. That is what it says, from Judah, from a Jew, the Jew. And Yair the Eloquent from Judah was also known as Yair, son of Nimhar. Yair, son of Nimhar. Yair is an important figure in Gaelic history. Keating terms Yair, son of Nimhar, says he's also known as Yair the Eloquent from Judah. Yair is therefore linked by Keating to both Nimhar and to Judah. Term Nimhar means sanctified. That is the same meaning as the Hebrew term parish. Was an important figure in the book of Chronicles, in the tribe of Manasseh, east of the Jordan, the section of Gilead. And there too we find Yair, a figure known as Yair, the son of Manasseh, or the grandson of Manasseh, and also associated with Judah through intermarriage, through some type of association, or possibly from two figures named Yair, one being descendant of Manasseh, the other coming from a branch of Judah that went to settle in that region. All events, Yair is associated with both Manasseh and Judah in Jewish biblical studies. And so too, in Irish tradition, Yair is associated with both Judah and with the Milesians of the Iberi. In the Middle East, the descendants of Yair were known as Yairi. The Yairi were descendants of Yair. They ruled over areas of Israel and of Syria, bordering on Mesopotamia in the north and northeast. And these parallels in effect confirm the identification of Yair of Irish tradition with the Yair of the Bible. We also have the house of Gaba. According to archaeological findings, the house of Gaba was a ruling dynasty of Yair. Yair was in the northwest of Israel, close to in the area of Syria and Turkey. It was a enclave of Judah. It's referred to in the Bible as Hamath, which belonged to Judah, 2 Kings 14:28. Yair was associated with Judah. The name Yair also is a form of the term Judah, and it was neighbored by the Dananu. The Dananu were also a section of Dan, from the tribe of Dan, and Dananu from Dan. They ruled over an area known as Small, whose name actually recalls Ziphion, a clan of Gad. So here we have Dan, Gad, and an enclave of Judah, all in the same area, adjoining each other and interlocked with each other. Also, in the list of the kings and the rulers of Israel, 1 Kings 4:7-27, it says that Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, 12 officers over all of his kingdom. The son of Geba was in Ramoth Gilead, that is in the area of Gilead, east of the Jordan of Manasseh, to whom pertain the towns of Yair, the son of Manasseh, which are in Gilead. There were townships, an area known as the townships of Yair in that region, to him also pertain the region of Argob, which is in Bashan, that is in Syria, a bit to the north. Geba, the son of Uri, was in the country of Gilead, the country of Sikon, and of the king of the Amorites, the Og Melech, king of Bashan, and so on. So here we find this name, this term, Yair, referring to areas pertaining to Manasseh, east of the Jordan to the north. And we find him associated with the term Geba or Gaba amongst the Yadai. The Yadai in the north, they were ruled by the house of Gaba, by the same house of the same name. And we find this name in these areas. It's connected with Yair, connected with the Dananu, connected with the Yadai enclave of Judah. And so too we find in Ireland, and amongst the Celts in general, this term Gaba as a nifnonim, a tribal name. We also find the Erni in Ireland, also known as the Iverni in Osray in southwest Ireland. And they regarded Eir as their forefather. The Ioni, descendants of Eir, and the Ioni were related to Ulaid and Darini of Ulster in the north. And this term or names derived from it are also found in Scotland. And even the term Eir or Eir, however you pronounce it, means island. The term may also derive from the name Eir. We have these names of different peoples, similar both in Ireland and the nation Israel, with the same family and tribal connections, different family and tribal connections along several pathways, but all of them similar to those both in Ireland and in ancient Israel.